Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another fascinating show for you tonight. We have Angel Israel from Nairobi, Kenya. So stay tuned as we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
If you or a loved one are looking for help finding a doctor who can qualify you for medical marijuana anywhere in the United States, then give us a call at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. We'll be happy to help you find a doctor who can help you obtain a recommendation for medical marijuana. Without further ado, here is our weekly interview from Kenya. I'd like to introduce Angel Israel, who is in coastal Kenya on the east coast of Africa. And Angel is the director of a group called Savor the World. And Angel is organizing a industrial hemp conference that's sponsored by, is it the National Industrial Hemp Council of America?
Yes, you got it.
Okay, good. And co-sponsored or partially funded, amazingly, from my perspective, by the United States Department of Agriculture.
Yes.
You even have a USDA logo on there, like a steak or something. And so Angel and I met in Thailand for the Thai Hemp Conference and the Second International Hemp Environmental Forum. And I am very happy to say I'm going to go and help her and others at this conference coming up on January 20th. So when Trump is being inaugurated in America, I get to leave the country, which is a good thing for me. Don't have to live through that again. Anyway, he's not here.
So I didn't realize it was inauguration day, right? And at the time when I was planning the conference, I didn't know who would win. But outside of inauguration day, it is another monumental day. It's Martin Luther King Day. And so for me, that's why it was a special day for me, sharing that, Martin Luther King Day with the conference, representing unity, peace, people together, especially here on the continent of Africa. I think this conference will be shaping the way forward, not just for Kenya, but for all of Africa. So very, very, very excited about that. And also excited to have you at the conference.
It's very exciting for me. My wife gets to go with me, so that's very exciting. So we're both looking forward to it. We got to meet and hang out for a few days in Thailand 2 years ago, and it'll be to see your associate Robert Kiyama and see him again there too. But so you're an American, you're a Michigan girl and a woman, and how did you come to go to Africa and become a hemp organizer?
Oh my goodness. Well, it started with me being invited to Kenya with a group of friends. So I went on vacation, came here, and I noticed a ton of hemp products all over the shelves at a lot of the health stores. And I mean, hemp milk, hemp hearts, hemp seeds, like the raw hemp seeds, even had the hemp seed oil, different soaps and cosmetics and stuff with hemp in it. And I said, oh, this is great. It must be progressive here. Come to find out, it's completely outlawed. The products even being on the shelves are technically outlawed, but yet the government approved them to be on the shelves, but the government wasn't aware of what hemp was. So, long story short, my 3-week vacation here in Kenya turned into 3 months where I began to network, and one thing led to another. I actually got introduced to Robert Kiyama. I was getting ready to give up and just come back to the US, and my attorney at the time that was here in Kenya said, before you give up, try to find this guy. And he sent me Robert Kiyama's profile. From the state ministry to farm it, and for his, for research purposes. And so when I showed him the products, he couldn't believe it. He never seen any of the products before, but he just knew, like, my country needs this. Yeah. So he said, please don't give up on this country. Don't give up on us. We need you. So he took me to the Government Research Institute, which is Calro, and he took me to several other government bodies to help me get the research approvals that I need. And here we are 3 years later, and 2 years prior to today is when we were all in Thailand, and he was a speaker there. So that's how I ended up in Thailand. And I mean, most of this wouldn't be possible without him. He's introduced me to pretty much everyone I know in the industry. So it is just amazing how, you never know who you'll meet, but he's been an amazing partner here on the ground with navigating the space. So it's been kind of like a vacation turned into, awesome business opportunity. And here we are, January 20th. A nice conference coming to showcase what we've been doing in the future ahead.
So the conference is not open to the public. It's invitation only, but I understand there are a lot of different government officials and not just from Kenya.
Correct. Yes. Like, we have confirmation from the Malawi High Commission, Botswana High Commission. There's trickling in, and we're hoping to get the current acting U.S. ambassadors here in Kenya. It might be a little tricky because it is Inauguration Day, because the previous ambassador, when Trump won the election, the following week she resigned. So I was like, uh-oh. But nonetheless, we're still just really excited for the high level amount of people that will be there. And we have people coming in from Australia, Canada, of course, the US. And so we're thankful for our sponsors, the National Industrial Hemp Council of America, as well as, funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, which is huge. It's huge, it's monumental. It is the first ever industrial hemp focused conference on the continent. There has been other cannabis conferences, but they focus more so on medical. This one being specifically focusing on fiber, food, fuel, specifically. And it's going to open many doors. So very, very excited.
The 3 F's: fiber, fuel, and food, which is hemp is the premier resource for on this planet. And that's why the petrochemical companies and pharmaceutical companies decided a long time ago that they would say that hemp is a deadly new drug, rather than what it really is, the world's oldest agricultural crop. So and there's planning in going on for conferences immediately thereafter in a couple other countries. Is that correct?
Yes. So we will be visiting Zimbabwe. We had actually some meetings set up in Uganda with the Minister of Agriculture, but unfortunately, our sponsors are a bit hesitant. The United States State Department has deemed that right now Uganda's not so safe. So we may be taking that out. So we're looking to possibly be able to bring the Minister of Agriculture of Uganda here to the conference. And then we'll be in Zimbabwe for some meetings with that'll be in partnership with the Dr. Z. She is an amazing Zimbabwean woman. She is the founder and CEO of the Zimbabwe Industrial-Hemp Trust. So she was responsible for moving legislation and shaping the legalization in Zimbabwe. So really excited for that journey as well. And I've never been to Zimbabwe, so that'll be a fun first time experience.
Yeah, I've never been to Africa, and I'm very excited. I have actually been saying for years, many times on this show, that hemp, Africa needs hemp because the rest of the world's population is stabilized or shrinking, but Africa's is growing. And we need to have sustainable development in Africa where there's jobs for people that help bring them in out of poverty and help they're sustainable. What, and tell our audience what that is.
Okay, so you just kind of brought it up. So I figured let me just, shout out my shirt. So it's helping economy merge people, hemp farmer. So
Okay.
however, when they signed it, they just thought, oh, this is a community project. The legal team didn't know what hemp was. No one read beyond, I guess, the cover page that said hemp, then helping economy merge people. So they didn't know what hemp was. So they just said, sure, it's helping the environment. And then afterwards, they were like, we didn't know what hemp was. And I said, oh my, so they didn't read on to see later in the research agreement that I gave to them to sign. It later gave the legal description of cannabis sativa L, but I guess no one really read until all the noise came. So helping economy merge people, hemp farmer is a staple for us here because we want to take hemp and help it elevate the people, help it merge the people in their lives economically. And that is a huge, huge, huge target of mine, which is why I have made the conscious effort to enter the market, especially here in Kenya, by way of industrial hemp, focusing on those 3 Fs so that it can really open it up for all especially the small farmers, the people in the rural areas. I mean, I've gone to rural areas and villages, and they have thousands of acres that's just idle. They use maybe 2 acres out of 1,000 acres for maize, and that's it. And I'm like, what this could do for their communities, for just development for their lives, it's important to showcase. It's important to reprogram the way that it's viewed and received. Like right now, I'm having issues with a clearing agent. They're like, it's hemp. You're importing something that could harm people. I said, it's stock. It's like wood. I mean, it's like, yeah. So just really trying to reshape people's minds and mentalities, around it, but really excited.
Have you looked at the hempwood products in terms of perhaps, we all know about hempcrete there. Hempcrete is very easy to get started, but hempwood's a little bit more complicated. Have you seen those products?
Yes, I have saw hempwood. I'm actually trying to get some samples. So if hempwood, if you're watching, you want to throw some samples for the conference.
I can bring some samples to you. I will bring some. I bought like 5 sample packs and I've taken them across Latin America. So I'll bring some.
Africa.
I interviewed the fellow who started the company back about 2 years ago. And
Nice.
I actually have hempwood and have you hemp tensils, which are a hemp plastic made of hemp fiber and cornstarch. And they're actually even available on Amazon. Hemp tinsels are. I bought a case of those, and I also took them around Latin America, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, Peru,
Oh my
Ecuador,
goodness.
Mexico. I've taken boards and given them to them so that local activists can display them. So
Okay.
I'll be happy to bring some.
Yes.
They're not my
please.
business, but they're a paradigm expansion. So the hemp wood is actually amazing because it's made out of full hemp fiber. If you go to their website, hempwood.com, it shows the manufacture of it. It's all made with Kentucky hemp in Kentucky. And their business has been expanding dramatically. The fact of the matter is it's harder because it's the longest and strongest plant fiber, and the way they make it, it's non-toxic, has no chemical gassing, unlike other pressed board, and it is harder than hickory, oak, and steel. And because it's harder than hickory, oak, and steel, it's pretty scratch resistant, and it's competitive with easily scratchable bamboo flooring. It's a little bit cheaper than bamboo flooring. So it's an amazing product. Check it out, wood.com, and I'll bring some boards. I might even buy an extra. I can see a couple sample packs just out of reach here in the office.
Yes.
But and then the hemp tinsels. That is,
I'm on
as I
Amazon
said,
now trying to find them.
tinsels is compostable. It turns into, in a compost pile, it'll turn into dirt in under 2 months, and out weathering in 2 years. In fact, my wife Teresa is right here, and she has been kind enough to hand me. This is a hemp board. It's
Okay.
very heavy. You can't really sense that on television, but here's a couple different hemp flooring products. This is what's really taking off. You can see it interlocks. So we got to get people across Africa making this
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
You know,
And if you absolutely
it'll
and
create
what it
jobs, create wealth, and help save the environment at the same time.
yes, that's what we're looking to do. And those I can't to see the hemp wood in your hands is so amazing. It's one thing like hearing about it, but to see it, it's like, oh my goodness, it's so cool. And it does it looks a lot lighter, but I can imagine it's pretty heavy and
Yeah,
strong.
it's not fun.
Um,
Can't really sense that, but it's pretty
yeah.
neat stuff. And I'll bring some of
And
my old hemp paper
then
that I imported from China too. Bring a suitcase
yeah,
full stuff to show off and give you
into
and
utensils.
demonstrate.
Talk about
Yeah, they're hemp
about
tinsels, and you can on Amazon here in America.
yeah, I will. You gotta send me that with our menu. So I'm
Yeah.
working specifically with the executive chef at the Kapinski Hotel in Nairobi, which is where the conference will be held. And he is curating a specific menu using hemp hearts and hemp oil and hemp flour. So we will have a very unique, I want to give guests, a sense of all five senses, so not only are they hearing, not only will they get to touch, see, feel, with some of our demonstrations, they will also get to taste. I think that is another thing, especially when we talk about food. It's, oh my goodness, is it safe? Will we get high? Is this, and so to give them this, no, you'll get full, it's nutritious, it's a super food. So that is something that we'll have. And I would love to be able to have people eating with hemp utensils. So I really want to see how we can definitely bring those over, even a large quantity to accommodate our guests. I think that would be, not only are you eating this, you're eating it with hemp utensils. So wow, thank you for that. So it's really exciting. Oh my goodness.
That's where I first saw them at the Southern Hemp Expo in Raleigh, North Carolina, that Morris Spiegel and his team organized, and also at the NOCO Hemp Conference in Colorado. So they had booths there, and they were using the hemp utensils in the food department too. And so there were a lot of neat things at those things. But so have you tell us about the speakers at the conference outside of me?
Well, I was getting ready to say, kicking off with you and I can't wait to have your presentation shared, the history of hemp. I'm just so excited about that. I think that'll be really eye-opening for a lot of people. And then we have the president of National Industrial Hemp Council. We have the chief strategy officer of IND Hemp. Really cool thing about him, I had an opportunity to visit Montana IND Hemp 3 years ago, and I got to see this massive, processing setup. And as I was getting the tour was given by Trey Riddle, who is the chief strategy officer at IND Hemp, and he mentioned how IND Hemp, part of their processing was adapted. They took an old flax processing facility and took their equipment and repurposed it for industrial hemp processing. And so when I came here to Kenya, I began to look at different options as far as processing outside of importing millions of dollars worth of equipment. I tried to find processing that's already here in Kenya that could be integrated into industrial hemp. I was a bit inspired by my tour from IND Hemp 3 years ago. And so I discovered sisal, and sisal is heavily grown here in East Africa. Actually, one of the largest sisal producers in Africa is here in Kenya. And the decortication process for processing sisal is almost identical to that of processing industrial hemp. So that is a huge, 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 opener and opportunity for us here as we get started with the industry, that we can use, put that in rotation with sisal. And sisal is also a strong fiber crop, but it takes a lot longer to mature and harvest. And it's said that you can only use 9% of the plant, and the rest is waste. So just imagine how, if you replace that with something like hemp, what that's doing. And right now, sisal is still 100% hand harvested. There is no mechanical way at all to harvest. So the flip side is like, the good thing of that is that it's keeping people employed, giving people jobs. But then the downside is that, wow, that is a really tedious process. So, and then back to the speakers. We have Trey Riddle from IND Hemp. We have Dr. Zoe, the CEO of the Zimbabwe Industrial Hemp Trust. We have James DeDecker from Michigan State University. I'm very, 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 very excited about that. I'm not a Michigan State University alumni. I am a Michigan native, so it's just really awesome to have Michigan State University is actually one of the oldest agricultural schools in America. So that is really, really awesome to have them there. We have Paul Benham from the Plastic Hemp Company. So that is all the way from Australia, I believe. So that's really exciting. We have Patrick Atagi. I don't know if I mentioned him already, the president of the National Industrial Hemp Council of America. We have Justina Wame. She's a Kenyan native. She actually ran for vice president, or she was running with the Roots Party, and their campaign 2 years ago was a legalized. Actually, I got my research permit here in Kenya and started going for it in 2021. In 2022, the Roots Party decided to run for president, and their running mate, Justina Wame, and their campaign was, "We win, we'll legalize cannabis." Unfortunately, they didn't win, but Justina Wame, the running mate for the Roots Party at that time, she will be one of the speakers, and she's absolutely amazing. I've had a chance to meet her in person, and so really excited to have her there. And we also have so many different people, but those are just to name a few.
Yeah.
A nice lineup.
Well, that's great. It's great. So this is coming up on January 20th, just less than a month away as this thing goes to air. And so we're really looking forward to it. I know you are as well. So how did you come to get so active in Kenya? Did you have any history of activism in the United States, or were your parents activists? Are your parents happy with you know? Are they supportive? I know you've been back visiting them recently.
Yes, yes. So my mother, definitely a strong activist. She transitioned actually back in June. She was a huge activist. I mean, thank you. She was like a frequent goer. Back, so she, and free the planet, free the plant. So she was definitely proud. I was one of those people that growing up, I used to think it was bad, right? So my mom would always laugh at me. So when she seen my life take this different direction, she's like, "That's my daughter," like it was a proud mommy moment. Like, oh, you've woken up to, realize this is not bad. And my other family, I made a lot of sacrifices over the last 3 years. So some of my family is like, "What are you smoking?" And I was like, "Nothing. I don't even smoke, you guys. Like, I'm telling you, it's so great." And they're like, you've given a lot of, I've given up a lot to keep being here and pursuing a lot. Last year I walked away from a really good paying job, and I said, I have to just give 100% to savor the world. And my family said, "What?" And they were like, "You're a new mom. What do you mean you're walking away from your job?" I was like, I have enough saved up. It's going to be okay. I'm going to figure it out. And they literally thought that I had completely just lost it. Like I got a hold of a bad batch of cannabis or something, and I've just really gone down the deep end. And so now though, like with the conference and some of the more positive things that are happening, they're getting to see it and receive it in a much more positive light. So it is, back in the U.S., not so much. I did try to my church. They have 184 acres, and so I was trying to convince my like, we gotta grow hemp, industrial hemp, and we can build out the senior citizen home, and we can do stuff. And they're just like, sure, like it's like this, like, yeah, we're gonna build hemp at the church, and we're gonna build the senior citizen home out of it. And I was like, yes, it's a great idea. We have the land. And they're just like, okay. And, so it's like I've really been pushing for it, but I actually invited my church here to the conference as well. Like, I think now, especially them seeing the conference and even just seeing that little USDA logo for them, it's like, oh, okay, maybe she's not so crazy, and it's like I can show them all the research, but in their minds, it's like, okay, now you're talking about bringing it to the church, and sister so and so is not going to have that, and bishop, and I was like, but you guys have to just hear me out. It's not, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. So it's a good solution for us. So I'm really hoping that I will be able to, even take this back and what I'm doing here in Kenya, and have that even be able to revive and start that industry more in Michigan, because I don't think there's any processing or anything being done. So I really hope to one day build a senior citizen home out of hempcrete for my church.
Right. That would be great. That would be great. So that's in the Detroit area, Oakland County, or
Wayne County, in a small town called Sumter, Michigan, is where I grew up. So Sumter Township is where I grew up. It's like less than 10,000 people in the entire town. Super country, rural area, dirt roads.
Well, I've got to just throw in a disclaimer for our audience out there. we are talking to Angel Israel, who is in Kenya, coastal Kenya and Eastern Africa. And the signal is obviously going on satellites or underwater cables. And occasionally there might be some little glitches, but it seems to be working a lot better now than it was working for us like 12 hours earlier when we tried this earlier. So at least there's that.
Yes,
Thanks for
yes.
being so flexible.
Yeah, thank you all for being so flexible as well. I was just, and it's the weirdest thing. I would think in the morning it would have, more lag because more people are up and getting on and working. But it's the opposite. I guess maybe when people are at home, they're on as well. But it was pretty late for us when we attempted before. So yeah, but it's definitely working much better. So thank you,
Yeah,
viewers.
so you are 11 hours ahead of us here on the west coast of North America, I think.
Yeah, so it's 8:06 a.m. here. So it's maybe
9:06 p.m. here.
okay.
So you're 11 hours into the future.
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes.
in the future. So it's about as far on the other side of the world as you can get.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
no wonder.
Did you?
So I said, it's about as far as you can get around the world
Yes.
from where we're at. You're down just on the equator as well, right?
Yes, you are. And oh my, if you're during your visit, it would be so awesome to. Have you ever visited the equator line in any of your travels?
I understand. I was just in Quito, and there was that, but I didn't stop in Quito. I went 3.5 hours away to Riobamba in Ecuador, which is like Ecuador.
Ah,
But I didn't see the monument. Do they have something like that there in Kenya?
we have an area where it's like you're at the equator line, and of course, it's not an actual line that you can see, but we have like a little landmark named the equator line. But what's really cool is that when you do the test with the matches in the water and how it goes counterclockwise on one side of the line, and if you just push it over to the other side, it goes the other way.
Wow,
And then if
never heard that. The Coriolis effect in an active demonstration. Also, there's a big bulge of
yeah,
earth at the equator. So you're
yeah,
farther away. When you're at sea level there, you're farther away from the center of the earth than you would be anywhere else.
kind of energy just being right there. Like I really felt something come over me. I don't know. They say Kenya is like this magical place. So it's really, really, really cool. So hopefully we get a chance to check out the equator line while you're here.
We'll have days. I think we're going to
Yeah.
be there for just over 2 weeks. Takes a little bit of time to acclimate when you're traveling like that, but I think we've got a few days there.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, is there anything else you'd like to address in terms of our international, mainly U.S. and Canadian cannabis audience?
Oh my goodness, just come with an open mind. For those who we will live stream it. So for those who can't make it, you will still be able to join with us on live stream. So we'll bring those links and everything closer to conference time. And we're just looking for people to come and beyond the conference, just come and support our research in various ways. It's something what we're doing here in Kenya. The goal is to have Kenya really lay the tone for the rest of the continent when it comes to industrial hemp, and then also learning from the mistakes of other countries, even the US. Like, all the other countries is like 0.3% THC. I think it should be 1%. I mean, this out. It's like we don't. It's like 0.3%. I mean, how many crops might easily test over that? So I just really think that for our international partners and
My belief, or what I think really, is that we should not judge a fiber crop on THC, nor a seed crop on THC. We should be looking at the plants that produce the best fiber and the best seed and the best oil. And those should be the ones. And THC really shouldn't be, it's not dangerous. Never killed anybody. It grows so prolifically. It's just this artificial prohibition that America instituted primarily to protect the wood-based paper and petrochemical industries. Not so much at first the pharmaceutical industry, but nowadays the pharmaceutical industry and the alcohol industry are some of the main backers of anti-marijuana lawsuits. And they see their economic interest is that farmers can't grow their own fuel. They have to drill it out of the earth. Where if farmers grow it, there's a natural balance. And when they drill it out of the earth, they're spewing their poisons all around. And like this hemp plastic, it's made out of hemp seed oil, and it's very environmentally friendly. So we can solve so many environmental problems, from deforestation, world hunger, global warming, inequity in law enforcement. They now know that Richard Nixon back in the 70s implemented the war on drugs and the Controlled Substances Act's enhancements, specifically targeting African American people and leftist organizers so that they could not vote. That came out in the Nixon tapes. The whole reason that they ratcheted up the war on drugs in the 70s was to suppress progressive votes and industries. So it's always been about money, power, and the centralization of economic and political control. And so what we're working against is that sort of control mechanism, and they don't want us to be heard, So, but we are gaining strength, and because of work like yours, and I'm really proud of what you're doing. I look forward to coming there and seeing it, and hopefully helping in some way.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you just coming is the start, is helping, so it's such an honor. I remember before we met in Thailand, I remember being on the phone with you, and you were talking about the Asia conference, the Asia International Hemp Conference and Expo. And you mentioned, yeah, we can look at, having one in Kenya one day. And here we are. That one day is almost here. So
I don't know if I planted the seed, but I'm very proud that I helped inspire the movement there in some little way.
Yes.
But that's great. That's great. Remember, we ran into each other in a Kiyama. Robert Kiyama said, "You've got to come in on this phone call." And I did, and you were leading it. And one of the doctors that works with me was in it as well, which was a surprise. Dr. Rachel Knox, who's pretty prominent.
Yes. So I hope soon, maybe later down the line, we'll be able to have, roll up with USDA. We really couldn't touch on CBD and medical. That was one of the stipulations. So this is, specific for industrial hemp, which is cool. Totally okay with that, because I do want, medical and stuff like that. The government would definitely put more regulations on it. And so it's important for me that we don't lead with that or start with that, to allow for, the small farmers, most importantly, for the people to benefit from this, the most. And then after that, hopefully similar to, I think, what the US did, they started with research and then opened the doors. I think 4 years later, it was like 2014, and then 2018, in the US, we decided to open up. So it's really exciting. It's much needed. The stigmas around it. I remember giving smell like something. I was like, no, you're not gonna get high. You know, like me gifting someone socks, and they're like, if I wear these, will I get high? I was like, that would be some really cool socks. You put your socks on, and you it seeps to your feet, and you get high. So just really reshaping. Again, that's why I think I don't know about. I haven't been to too many other hemp conferences, but when I decided that I want not just speakers and products there, but I want the menu to even include hemp as much as possible. I want to give a full experience, not just talk about it, but I want you to walk away and say that you have seen, tasted, and heard as much as you could possibly receive within this one day with hemp. And so really hoping that our 2026 conference can be even greater. So just really excited.
So you're planning a 2026 conference. Are there any other plans in the offing that you can talk about now?
Yeah, we're planning 2026 with a lot more time ahead. This one was a bit. I remember you told me when we spoke that one time about the conference that it takes a lot of work to put on a conference and you need a lot of time to plan. You said some people plan like a year in advance. So I planned this about 6 months in advance, and those additional 6 months. Yeah. So yeah.
The clock keeps ticking. But I'm amazed that you have the National Industrial Hemp Council of America and the United States Department of Agriculture. Can you tell us anything? You mentioned the USDA said it can't be about medicinal, but just about hemp fuel, fiber, and food. How can you tell us anything about their sponsorship?
Yeah, so it's coming from a USDA grant. It's a RAP funding grant, and the focus for the RAP funding grant is for education purposes and to also open up the export market from, there's a lot of hemp in America that it's just a lot of industrial hemp. People are just sitting on tons of hemp. And so as other countries are looking to get started, it's a good, maybe if we're exporting or bringing in hemp from the US to, to get started with these industries while we get ramped up with farming and producing here in Kenya and other parts of the world. So the grant is focused on that, as well as educating the government that this is okay to import, like it's safe and what that means. So it's like I said, I'm having a hiccup right now as we speak with being able to ship some hemp herd into the country, and I was like, come on, you guys, like it's okay, I promise. So working and navigating around through those spaces. So NIHC, the National leaders in the U.S. They're the representatives under the USDA for a lot of the foreign agricultural services surrounding industrial hemp. So it is truly a blessing to have them, and just to share my testimony, if I can.
Please.
I had a dream, like God came to me and said, do a conference. And I was like, I don't have any money. With what resources am I going to pull a conference off? And I know people get sponsors and everything, but it was 6 months away, like what was coming to me as far as this date. And I started planning it. And I remember having a meeting with my team here in Kenya. They said, well, who's going to sponsor it? Do you have a sponsor yet? I was like, I think USDA. I didn't know anyone at USDA. I don't even know where those words came from. And I guess it was just, I don't know, my subconscious mind knowing something that I didn't know, right? And then a few weeks later, I get an email introducing me to the National Industrial Hemp Council of America, who had just been awarded these funds from USDA to support initiatives like what I'm doing. And so I said, wow, I'm so glad I listened when God said, it's time to do this conference now. And then I was also thinking about what you said. I don't have enough time to pull this off by January. I don't have, and I just said, you know what? Just trust God, just have faith. Everything will work out. And here we are. I think today is actually 1 month away, or today is today in Kenya.
Where you're at, a month.
Yeah.
We're still 3 hours on that. But by the time this airs, it'll be less than that.
Yes,
So
yes.
we're still looking for sponsors. If somebody wants to reach out and contact you and be a sponsor, how can they do that?
They can contact me directly at angel@savortheworld.com. So yes, and we also have our official administrative team with the Kenya Hemp Conference, KHECon. And I want to also explain the name of the conference, but khecon.com is how you can find out more information about the conference as well.
All right. Well, I hope that's productive in some sphere anyway. So are other industry leaders coming from other parts of the world? I know I reached out to the Dronkers, and it is short notice for them, but I know they've got a lot of things going on. They're the owners of Hemp Flax, which I think is the largest hemp company in the world. Their hemp is used to make the Euro note and the German auto industry's body molding and many other things. I think Ben Drucker said in Japan back in 2016 that he lost $1 million a year for 20 years, and then it started making money. So he put in a long-term investment, and he and I have both been inspired by our mutual friend Jack Hare way back when. You've probably heard that name over the years.
Yes, definitely heard that name and read literature.
I know that the first edition of Jack Hare's book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, was written here in Portland, Oregon, and in my house. I did a lot of research on Hare's book. I had no idea I'd be talking about it 40 years later. That was back in 1985. So
wow.
a full 40 years ago here coming up pretty soon. But
and I didn't know that about Hemp Flax or the Dronkers. You know, we had the opportunity to stay at their mansion, and I didn't know who they were. So I was like, this is
I
so
put that out
cool.
there. And Alan Dronkers, who's the son of Ben Dronkers and active in the industry, he said he was very proud of you. So
thank you.
Maybe we'll have to try to convince him to transfer that pride in some actual support. I know that Dronkers started Hemp Flax with the financial assistance of his cannabis seed business, Cincy Seed. And he named a variety of cannabis flowers after Jack Hare. And so a lot of people think that Jack Hare was a cannabis grower, but really he wrote this book, and he was a cannabis activist, and he encouraged me to petition too.
Well, let's keep going. So this will be edited, right?
Is there anything I haven't talked about that we should talk about?
I don't know if it's worth mentioning. So I don't know so much. Oh, maybe even what it's like to be an American here working in Africa. I can talk about some of the challenges and stuff there, and the positives and negatives. The name KHE, which is KEHE, I had looked at, which is, you know, what we're abbreviated for the conference, the KHECon. I looked up the etymology of KHE just to see if it was even a word. And in Hebrew, it means God's gift. And so I think that's powerful when we're talking about industrial hemp and what it means for the people of Africa, for the world, for the environment. It's truly God's gift. And I think about Genesis 1, where it speaks about about, let every seed, bearing in this plant, it should be your food, your everything, right? And so when I think about Kehe, and I saw that it means God's gift, I thought that's the perfect abbreviation for the Kenya Hemp Conference because industrial hemp and hemp itself, cannabis, it's truly God's gift to the planet, to the people, to life. So yes.
Yeah, the most productive crop and the oldest crop that we know has been cultivated.
Yeah.
So what is it like being a young American activist in Africa and Kenya?
Okay, so the plus side is that being American, everyone assumes you have money. It's like, oh, she's from America, she has money. So it's easy for me to just walk into any office and, oh, she's American, and you go right to the top, right? The downside is that everyone thinks you have money. So it's like the prices are always hiked up. Everything is,
And
now
people
the
are
good
asking,
thing, yes. so the good thing is that, like, if I don't open my mouth, I blend in, right? And everyone assumes that I'm Kenyan. But as soon as I open my mouth, it's like up, like I take the local transportation, like these motorbikes that they have, and it's actually like 50 cents is the local price for one trip. But so what I started to do was just not ask how much and just start giving the local price. But if I open my mouth and I ask how much, they triple. They'll charge me $1.50 for one way instead of 50 cents. So it's just a matter of me, sometimes not letting people hear my American accent.
right,
So like I said, here's the pluses. The other thing was 3 years ago when I first got started, I was told that it doesn't matter that you're a CEO or a president. To us, you're a wife. You're just a sister.
very
You're just
sexy.
a woman. And I was like, yes, yes. So, still a really big thing here. It's
I've read
so it
recently
has its challenges. I'm sorry, what was that?
about a number of mass murders of women there in Kenya, where they were
Yes.
and that they were arresting people for that. Hopefully, I don't know if you want to
Pretty
address
crazy
that.
cutout.
But do you feel safe?
I do personally feel very safe here in Kenya. I haven't had any, crazy. I've had a few crazy experiences, but for the most part, I do feel safe. I kind of, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But I will say the first 2 years, I was just this really strong American woman, but I had to realize that, I am seeing more women in high positions here in Kenya. But I will say that, like, over just the last year and a half, I've noticed that. But when I first came here, it was not like that. So it is changing slowly but surely. And just I do also see, like, even Kamala Harris, being VP, I think opened a lot of doors. The U.S. really opens a lot of doors for the rest of the world, and the tone that we set. And so just being an American and being able to bring that over here, and then also just as an American doing this initiative here in Kenya, um, I think it's awesome because you don't really see, like, especially here in East Africa, you don't see Americans. Like where I live on the coast of Kenya, there's no I haven't met any Americans here. British, German, Italian, but I have yet to meet any Americans where I live. And there's that I run into, and they haven't met Americans before, So it's now in Nairobi, it's a lot different, but in a lot of the other areas, they don't too often really see Americans coming over and doing, especially Black Americans here. So it's really exciting to be able to do this.
So you're how far are you from Nairobi, which is the capital of Kenya?
Nairobi, about an 8-hour drive from Nairobi.
I see. I see. Well, I think our internet's getting a little choppy now. Maybe people are getting up and
Yes.
getting on there or something. But
Yep.
you'd like to say in closing, Angel?
This hemp is God's gift. Let's free it and bring it to the people.
Very good. Very good. And if someone wants to reach out and help in any way or get more information, what is that email again?
We have angel@savortheworld.com.
Okay. And what about a website?
So the website, I'm pushing the conference so heavy right now. We have kehecon.com. That's KEHECON.com. And then we also have hempkenya.com.
Okay. Great. Great websites, domains for sure. Well,
Thank you.
talking to Angel Israel out in East Africa, in Kenya, who's organizing the first Kenya Hemp Conference coming up on January 20th. I really want to thank you for being our guest. I'm inspired by your activism and your work and that of your associate, Robert Kiyama. And I look forward to seeing you there in just a few more weeks here, January 20th, for the conference there in Nairobi. Thank you for doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, thank you for coming. Can't wait to see you.
Yeah, and Kiyama was saying how he's looking forward to seeing us in Africa too. So on African.
Yes, and sending my blessings and love to Teresa as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing her again too.
It'll be good to come there, and it's the mother continent for all humanity, really. So.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Okay, well, peace and love. Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
To restore hemp. Good night.
Yes, yes. Okay.